Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. You're on.
All righty, it is 6:30 here on May 8th, and I am going to call to order the meeting of the Special and Contact Committee for the Council of New Philadelphia, Ohio. I'm looking, Mr. Holland is absent today, but I see that Mrs. Ramos is here, Mr. Lanzer is here, and myself, which establishes a quorum for us to do business tonight. We are here tonight to discuss the three pieces of legislation, proposed legislation, dealing with the Community Development Block Grant and the CHIP program. I assume everybody's had a chance to look that over and see what's involved. Resolution 723 essentially is a resolution to authorize the mayor to submit an application for program year 2023 for the Community Housing Improvement Grant Funds, totaling, I believe, $650,000, and it's in a partnership with the city of Uriksville, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, so I would open the floor to any discussion of the committee at this time. Are there any questions you have? We have Mayor Day here. He can answer those questions probably better than I.
Just a basic comment that we pretty much gotta go along with what they say, or we don't have a chance at it. So,
Right.
It's that thing you get on the website that says, do you agree to our terms? And if you say no, well, you don't go any further. So it's kind of that. Any other discussion amongst our committee members on Resolution 723? How about other members of council who are in attendance today? Any questions we can answer there? Mr. Mayor, administration, any comments or discussion?
Any comments, Ron?
Nope.
No?
No? How about anybody from the public?
If I'm understanding you correctly, you talk about the CHIP program.
Yes.
All I can say, being on public record, is I'm having done work done to my house now from the CHIP program. They've replaced my front steps, walk in the front of the house, it's fantastic. Last week, the contractor worked putting in new electrical service, 220 line, 200 amp service. I'm immensely impressed. This week, he's coming to, where I only have one gas meter instead of two. The work done on the electrical was taking it down from 2 meters to 1, because the house had been duplexed. They're gonna be putting a new roof on the house, other electrical improvements within the house. And everything I've seen of what they're doing, I'm blown away.
So a worthwhile program.
I am greatly enthused about it. Troy said that the house that I have is the biggest ones he's ever written up. And the total amount on that is $82K.
Wow.
But, like I say, I've got 5 valleys on that roof. So that roof alone is over $20,000.
So you would say it's a beneficial program, something we should
I
support?
think it is for,
Okay.
for people who need the help, and it greatly improves the area.
Right, property values in the city go up.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm tickled without being pickled.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comments from anyone? Hearing none, is there any action that the committee would recommend tonight?
I move that we add, Resolution 7/2023 to tonight's agenda and, hold for at least a second reading.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. I will take a vote. Mr. Lanzer?
Yes?
Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
I also vote in the affirmative, so that passes, and we will make the motion tonight to add that to legislation. Moving on to Resolution 823, pretty much the same vein of things. It is a resolution to authorize the mayor to act as a signatory for the city of New Philadelphia for the program year 2023 Community Housing Improvement Grant Funds, again, $650,000 total in partnership with the city of Uriksville. I would open the floor to discussion. Much the same as what you said earlier, Dan.
Pretty much, ditto.
Okay. Anybody from the members of council with any questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Mayor, anything to add?
Yes, sir.
Anybody from the public? Hearing no other comments, I would open the floor for any kind of action we would like to take.
I move that we, put resolution 8/2023, add it to the agenda tonight, pass on second reading.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, calling the roll, Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer?
Yes.
And myself also a yes. That motion also will carry, and we will add that legislation tonight at the appropriate time of the council meeting. Last but not least on our orders of business tonight is Resolution 9/2023, a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with the Ohio Regional Development Corp. To service as an administrative consultant to the city for the purpose of utilizing the program year 2023 Community Housing Improvement Grant Funds, again, in partnership with Eurexville. But that would be allowing the mayor to hire them as consultants during this time period. Any discussion or questions here? Yes?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
How has this, group been have they done a good job at managing?
Yes, Mrs. Ramos, they've done a really good job. Yeah, very satisfied.
I got one. Mayor, I'm just kind of curiosity, what was I know it's like around $600,000, what was the split last year, like, for us in Yorksville?
Oh,
I think it was 350 to 300.
350 to 300, right.
We was the
We was
350.
the
Which is
Yeah,
in this year, correct?
yeah.
And on Cheryl, they've been fabulous. Because, well, I mean, in getting contractors, the last folks we had in here, had trouble getting, some contractors. And really the lead folks was really an issue with the last one. These guys have did great with, tracking down. But they've got a bigger network, a much bigger network than the last folks. So that helps us a bunch.
Great.
A bunch, so they have an office here, and then they're out of Coshocton also, so it's really helped, and the caliber of contractors are hiring are obvious. So,
Good,
Thanks, Ron.
thank you.
Any other questions? Council members? Obviously, the mayor and administration have spoken. You have nothing else to add?
Nothing else to add?
Okay. Anybody from the public with a question? Hearing none, again, I would ask for any action that we wish to take tonight.
I'll move to add resolution 9/2023 to tonight's agenda, hold for a second reading and pass.
Okay, do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lanzer, you in favor?
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos?
Yes.
I also am in favor, so we will add 9/2023 to the legislative agenda and hold for a second reading tonight. And that pretty much concludes our business this evening unless somebody has something else to bring before the committee. Hearing none, it is 6:38 PM. I would entertain a
I'll
motion
move.
to adjourn.
To adjourn.
We will adjourn at 6:38 then. Thank you.
All right, it's 7 o'clock and we'll go to order our public hearing for the fiscal year 2023 CHIP program. We have with us tonight Mr. Dale Hartle, who is the Ohio Regional Development Corporation. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Dale.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. It's a privilege to be here and talk to you again. 2 years ago, we applied for a CHIP program for the city of New Philadelphia and partnering with the city of Yorksville as well. We were awarded funds in the amount of $650,000. That program was part of last year and is this year and finishes up at the end of February in 2024. And during that program, we are working hard on it. We have completed several owner rehabs. We have 5 under contract to continue doing. We have home repairs that we've done in the amount of 11 in the city of Yorksville as well as New Philadelphia. The reason I'm here tonight is because it's time to apply for another CHIP program for the next 2 years. The application deadline is on June the 21st of this year, and if it's funded, which we certainly hope that it would be, if it's funded, it will not be funded until roughly November or December, and then the environmental review has to take place, and lots of things with the Ohio Historic Preservation Office, and typically you cannot start until all of that is done. It typically is around February, so it would be February of '24. The details of the program is to the amount of money that's available is $650,000 for the city, the 2 cities together. The national and state objective of the CHIP program is to partner with the Ohio communities to preserve and improve the affordable housing stock for low to moderate income Ohioans and strengthen neighborhoods through community collaboration, providing direct benefit to low and moderate income households. There are funds available for a variety of sources. One of them is owner rehabilitation, and for that we can spend up to $75,000 per house based upon the needs of that house. We don't just automatically give them 75, it has to be based on need. And for that program, they have to, for all of the programs, they have to be income eligible. We qualify their income so that they meet the guidelines of the state. For the owner rehabilitation program, there's a mortgage placed on the home for the amount of money, for the amount of work that is done on that home, and that's a forgiven mortgage over 5 years, as long as they've lived there 5 years. If they move before 5 years is out, the prorated amount not forgiven would have to be paid back to your city, and then it gets reused for other units like that. Rental rehabilitation also can happen, and rental rehabilitation is very much like owner rehab, only that it is for renters who are living in rental housing. The income that is based upon is not the landlord's income, but it's based upon the renter who lives in that house. And the landlord has to agree to keep that house as a rental house for a period of 5 years. The next type of program that's available is home repair, and I would back up and say that for rental rehabilitation, the landlord has to pay 50% of the funds to rehabilitate it, and the program pays for 50% of it. For owner home repair, it's for people that live in their own homes, and it's maybe they just need a certain few things done, maybe a hot water tank, a furnace, or something like that. The owner rehabilitation and the rental rehabilitation require the mortgage, as I said, for 5 years. The owner home repair does not have a mortgage on it. It is simply forgiven the moment that the work is done. But the maximum we can spend on that is $22,000 per house. So you might do a furnace, maybe electrical system, maybe some plumbing and things of that nature. The fourth type of project that's available to be done is rental home repair versus the owner home repair that I just talked about. Again, that's for renters who live in rental housing, and their income is the one that the work is predicated upon, not the landlord's. Again, the landlord has to pay half of the amount of money that goes into the project. The fifth area is homeownership, down payment assistance program, and rehabilitation or down payment assistance program. And we can put a total of $78,000 per unit. That's not used very often because you have to know going into the program who's gonna buy a house, where it's going to be. But if it is used, the beauty of it is that the person buying the house, making the down payment, we can help with the down payment, but also that home has to be brought up to the residential rehab standards that the state has. And so we can't just help someone buy a home. That home has to meet the state standards for rehabilitation if we do that. The last one, the last type of project that is available to do is tenant-based rental assistance. And that works typically with your local housing authority. And that helps people for a short, limited period of time to pay their rent. That has to be coupled typically with funds from the housing authority because the maximum per unit is $12,000. So that's not gonna pay their rent for a long period of time, but that's available as well. It's known as TBRA. The past performance of the CHIP program, that New Philadelphia and the city of Uriksville has been very good. We've worked well with the program, with both the city and the two cities, and the projects are going very well. As I said, the application date is June the 21st. We will have a second hearing here in this room on May the 22nd, same time at 7 p.m. And the purpose of that at that time is not to go over all that I've gone over here, but to tell you, working with the mayor's office, to tell you the exact programs that we would be applying for based upon the mayor's input and so on. Do you have any questions for me tonight? Yes, ma'am.
What is the income level that people can apply for? I mean, what's the requirements for income?
I knew you'd ask that. Well, somewhere. I will bring it for the next meeting, but it is approximately $41,000 for one person living in the household. It is about $45,000 for two people living in the household, and it goes on up from there.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll get you the exact numbers for the next
Okay,
meeting.
thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Ardle?
Thank you again for the time to be with you tonight, and I promise not to take any more of your time this evening. But,
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks,
if you have
Dale.
any questions anytime, I've passed my card out to most of you, I think, or all of the members, and just give me a call, send me an email, text, whatever. We'll get those answers for you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
Is anyone else of the public or administration wants to speak? All right, hearing none, we'll adjourn till we have our second public hearing on the 22nd. of May. This meeting of New Philadelphia City Council will now come to order. Would you please rise and remain standing for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Father, we thank you for this day and thank you for the springtime. There's a beautiful weather we've had and all the trees and flowers coming out. We just thank you for that beauty. Father, we just thank you for our city councils. As we come here to city, we just ask you to guide, direct us in our decision making. Father, we also pray for the safety of our citizens. We pray for the safety of police and firemen, and we pray for the safety of those that are serving our country in the military. And we just ask this all in thy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody here to our council meeting here on May 8th, 2023. We'll start off with roll call.
Mr. Holland. Mr. Lanzer.
Here.
Mrs. May.
Present.
Mr. Pace. Mrs. Ramos.
Here.
Mr. Ricklick.
Present.
Mr. Rippon.
Present.
All right. Let it be known that Mr. Holland and Mr. Pace have been excused from the meeting tonight. Mr. Pace may show up yet. He had a ball game for his son this evening. All right, everybody's had a chance to review the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda for tonight?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Ribbit.
I would move that we add to the legislative agenda tonight, Resolution 07, 2023, 08, 2023, and 09, 2023, all to be held for a second reading, but to put on the agenda tonight.
Do I have a second? Mr. Ramos?
Second.
All right, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Rippon.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Are there any other additions to the agenda tonight? Here now, I accept a motion to approve the agenda with our additions. Mr. May, thank you. Mr. Ricklick, second, thank you. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Rippon.
Yes.
All right, agenda has been approved. Minutes, everybody's had a chance to review the minutes of our last council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Alonso, thank you. Need a second.
Second.
Mr. River, thank you. Second. In discussion by administration, council, roll call.
Mr. Lanzer.
Yes.
Mr. Rippon.
Yes.
Mrs. May.
Yes.
Mrs. Ramos.
Yes.
Mr. Ricklick.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Coolwright, correspondence.
To Councilwoman May from President Kemp, dated April 28th, 2023. This is an email titled Non-Bargaining Salaries. President Kemp asked Mrs. May to take this issue into her committee. To Councilman Holland from President Kemp, this is dated April 29th, 2023. This is an email titled Housing Ordinances. President Kemp asked Mr. Holland to take this matter into his committee. To Council and Administration from Heather Denham with the Auditor's Office, dated May 3rd, 2023. This is an email titled Month-End Reports with the statement of cash position totals and the expense report with encumbrance details as the attachments. To Council and Administration from the Kimball Company, dated May 3rd, 2023. This is a notice for the ODNR of Industrial Minerals Permitting. To Council and Administration from Income Tax Administrator for the City, Vicki Daniels, dated May 3rd, 2023. This is the April Income Tax Report. To Council and Administration from Mayor Day, dated May 3rd, 2023. This is an email titled Zoning Revisions Update and Work Session with Wendy Moeller. To Councilman Pace from Tom Adamick, President of the Visiting Library Service, dated May 4th, 2023. This is an email titled New Philly, Ward B, Chauncey Avenue Repair Inquiry Request. To Council and Administration from Mayor Day, dated May 5th, 2023. This is an email titled Mayor's Association Call to Action, Local Government Fund. To Council Clerk from the Tuscarawas County Commissioners, dated May 5th, 2023. This is an email, or this is actually a letter with the minutes from the meeting dated April 19th, 2023, concerning the proposed site of the Friends of the Homeless Shelter on Brightwood Road Southeast. To Council Clerk from Treasurer Gerber dated May 6, 2023. This is the City of New Philadelphia Investment and Savings Report for April of 2023. And to Council and Administration from Mayor Day dated May 8th, 2023, the Mayor's Report. And that concludes correspondence for this evening, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Ms. Courtwright. We'll move on to our administrative reports. First up, Mayor Day.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members, fellow administrators, and guests. From the report I sent you earlier today, I want to highlight several things. City crews are prepping our parks and other departments for the upcoming summer season. We could still use a few seasonal workers, so if you know of anyone who's interested, direct them to the city's website in order to apply. R2GO is getting the Tuscarora Park rides ready to open, including a newly refurbished Ferris wheel. There will be a rededication ceremony for the Ferris wheel on Sunday, May 28th at 3 p.m. And there's still many rainbow trout in the Tuscarora Park pond that need fished out before the water temperature rises. So fishermen, go out there and help us out. The Southside Community Park dog parks are open. The County Public Library is planning to construct a storybook walk along the Pollinator Gardens pathway. Repairs are being made to the Crider Avenue walking trail to get it ready for the summer. Repairs are also underway at the Waterworks Park Skate Park, and the docks are in at both of the city's boat ramps. The downtown business community is growing. Last Friday, I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for Diamond in the Rough Property Solutions. They're located on West High Avenue. It's a business that specializes in bathroom and kitchen renovations and home additions. This coming Friday, Custom Needleprint will have its official opening and ribbon cutting ceremony at its new location on Ashwood Lane Northwest. It outgrew its space at the Talati Center Business Incubator on Tech Park Drive and selected the downtown location as its new home. So please join me in welcoming them to New Philadelphia. And finally, 2 longtime public servants are going to be retiring this month. New Philadelphia Police School Resource Officer Jen Horner's 23-year duty with the City Police Department will conclude with her retirement on May 19th. And Chris Bourne's 45-year career as custodian for New Philadelphia Schools will conclude with his retirement at the end of the current school year. Chris designed and helped construct the brick pillars at the city's Schönbrunn Meadows Cemetery. Both are people with many, many talents. Their commitment to excellence has been inspiring to all of us who know them and have worked for them. And we wish them good health and plenty of relaxation in their retirement years. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Any questions, Mayor?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Day. All right, Service Director, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Met with Kinsey Excavating this afternoon on Glen Drive. They did share the timeline for the project to be completed. They're looking at the end of July, early August, so bear with us. The much needed project, but it will be some headache there with the one way in and one way out. I did confirm with him. I know last council meeting had a question on the truck route. He confirmed he's going to use North Broadway because of the light. Every now and then he may go the other way if he's not hauling anything, but they're going to have to use the light for the biggest part of their travels. Again, end of July looks like the end of that project, so we all know it's much needed, so just bear with us out that way. Also, the taxiway reconstruction relocation down at Harry Clever Field. The bid has been, or the project has been awarded to Shelley and Sands in the amount of $2,680,035.50. That bid was 9.79% over engineering estimate, but it was awarded. It's early on. We have not met with them at all yet, so once I get an update on their construction plans, I'll make sure I share that with everybody here. Wednesday, May 3rd, we was to have a bid opening for the Route 250 waterline crossing. Unfortunately, like Glen Drive, where we had to bid it out 3 times, there was no bids received last Wednesday. So we will rebid that again. Did talk to one contractor, and the specialization of the boring and the contractor that he was going to use for that to sub it out has limited time and availability, so we may have to move the finish line for that project according to that contractor. So Again, we'll rebid that out and hopefully get that done. It's a much-needed project also. And then I also want to bring everybody up to speed. Next Monday, the 15th, the gas company will be down at 10th and Front Southwest. They have a line there that has a slow leak in it that they'll be repairing. And that road will be closed for approximately 4 days because they're working underneath the tracks. So avoid that area. They'll continue to do work there, but they will maintain one-lane traffic with flaggers after that time. And that project should last approximately 3 weeks. But 4 days, it'll be completely closed off. So try to avoid that area. Also, I know Councilman Wrigley had asked last time, the 416 permanent repairs were made last week there. So that concludes their end of that project, the Park Lane Waterline project. Also, with the mayor speaking about part-time help, we also need some full-time help. There's a couple openings left in the sanitation department, so if anybody's looking for full-time, we're looking for people. And that's the end of my report.
All right, any question for Mr. McAbeer? Thank you, Mr. McAbeer. Move on to Safety Director, Mr. Popham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. In preparation for the retirement of Officer Horner and Chief Goodwin, the Civil Service Commission, the testing has been completed for all those positions. And we're just waiting the certified results to come back from the commission. And then we'll be making the announcement of who gets promoted up and who becomes the next chief. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Popham. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to Auditor, Mrs. Gundy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make council aware, our auditors are in, you may be contacted, they like to talk to some council members. They'll be here for a few weeks, and that's all I have.
All right, any question for Mrs. Gundy? All right, move on to Treasurer, Mr. Gerber.
No report, no, sir.
All right, move on to Law Director, Mr. Pate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to update you on the rental registration legislation and the vacant property legislation. What I did was I sent that to Wendy Moeller, who is doing is revamping our zoning ordinances. I want to make sure there's nothing that's inconsistent with what they're doing. And I also want, when we had met with her initially, we went through several issues that we had. She said, even if it's not addressed in zoning, she could give us some suggested legislative changes. So I sent it to her to get her feedback on it. I had also sent her the short-term rental legislation, and she had sent that back to me. I haven't got back on the other two yet, but she did respond back to me on the short-term rental and had some suggested changes in that. So I'm gonna be implementing those, and then once I get back her feedback on the other two, that'll be coming before you. I was going to request an executive session tonight to discuss a matter that needs to be kept confidential, a legal matter that has to be kept confidential by law. Given there are two council members out, that would not be my preference to do that. If Mr. Pace should show up, I might re-ask that before the end of the session to go over that, and then I could brief Mr. Holland separately.
All right, any question for Mr. Fate? All right, we move into our board commission reports. Planning Commission, Mayor Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning Commission meeting this month has been canceled due to a lack of agenda items, and also the fact that I have an appointment out of town tomorrow. So it'll be meeting again next month, second Tuesday of the month at 1 p.m. here in council chambers.
All right, thank you, Mayor Day. Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. McAbeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board of Zoning Appeals will meet tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. here in council chambers with one variance request to be heard. That's in my report.
All right. Move on to airport, Mr. Lonzer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Airport Commission will be meeting May 9th, tomorrow evening, here in council chambers at 6 p.m.
All right. Move on to Health Board, and Mr. Holland, he's out. Park Board, Mr. Pace is gone, so we'll move into our council committee reports. Finance, Mr. Ricklick.
Thank you, Mr. President. No formal report this evening.
All right. Public Works and Economic Development, Mr. Alonso.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report this evening.
All right. Safety, Health, and Service, Mr. Holland's out of town. Move on to zoning and annexation, Mrs. Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President, no report.
All right, move on to salary, Mrs. May.
Thank you, Mr. President, no report.
Parks and Cemetery, Mr. Pace is gone. Move into Contract and Special Committee, Mr. Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Special Contact Committee met this evening in council chambers at 6:30. We took before ourselves the Resolution 7, Resolution 8, and Resolution 9, which have been added to the agenda tonight for legislative review. So we took that action and we will be moving forward. We adjourned at 6:38 and finished our business.
All right, thank you, Mr. Griffith. All right, time now for visitors' comments. The floor is open for visitors' comments. Anyone wishing to address council should rise, state your name and address, and address all comments to the chair. Is anybody here wishing to address council this evening? And we're given five minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Rod Wilson. I live at 1640 Brightwood Road, Southeast New Philly. I would like to express a concern for the homeless shelter that here in New Philadelphia. I'd like to talk about a point that I know our group from Brightwood has talked about many times, and probably council has also talked about this many times. But I'd like to just kind of focus on this one point if I could. The homeless shelter, when it was started 17 years ago, the purpose of the homeless shelter was to take care of homeless folks. Give them a meal, take them in for the night, bathe them, give them a bath, a place to bathe if they needed it, and help them with other services that they may need to get back on their feet. But the homeless shelter today has changed. There's not really much comparison between when it was started and what we're dealing with today. It's my understanding from conversations I've heard all over that there's a very high percentage of personnel in the homeless shelter that have drug problems. So the purpose of the homeless shelter has changed. The homeless shelter is now trying to solve a rehabilitation program, a rehabilitation problem, I'm sorry. I don't believe the homeless shelter is equipped to deal with that. And hence we have a lot of issues as a result of that. So I would like to say that I think if the people that need rehab, drug rehab, were separated from the actual homeless folks and put in a directed to a rehab facility, there would be a lot less actual homeless people at this facility, and I suspected it would function a lot more like it was originally intended and maybe a lot more palatable to people in New Philadelphia. That was the point that I wanted to make. I'd just like to re-stress that I do not believe the homeless shelter is equipped to deal with the problems that they are been saddled with today. And I think that is actually creating a lot of problems for everybody in the community. And I think that if that somehow can be dealt with, then we might be able to get back to a homeless shelter that function like a homeless shelter here in the immediate area where their services are, and it will not be so objectionable to folks here in town and other places around the community. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, I know seem like we're rehashing everything. We've had several meetings on the homeless shelter, and I know you have a passion for it, but it seems like we keep rehashing the same things. The council is well aware of the concerns in the community. It'd be more said, I mean, the council's not gonna vote on anything this evening, anything to do with the homeless shelter. Tomorrow night, the Board of Zoning Appeals is where that action will be taken at, and it'd be better served for folks to show up at that meeting to talk about the homeless shelter at that point, Mr.
Yeah, I
Wilson.
think we intend to do that.
Okay.
We intend to do that, yeah.
Because
I
I
just
mean,
wanted to make that point this evening if I
Yeah.
could, and I thank you for the time.
sure. So, unless somebody's got something new to add, I don't see that we need to further the public participation. Like I said, I would direct everybody to the board. Mrs. Ramos?
Yes, I'd just like to point out, this is a different group of people that are saying
Well,
their
but I'm saying-
concerns. It might be some of the same, some things we haven't heard before, but it's a different group.
Well, I understand that, but everybody that has been at our meetings, we just kind of rehash the same thing, that we understand their passion and concerns, yes.
But, I mean, what I was saying, we're hearing from a different group.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, several,
Mr. President, if you'll indulge me for a few minutes, my name is Joseph Jones. I am also, live in Brightwood, and I rise to voice my opposition to the moving,
put your address, sir.
2132 Herbert Street,
Okay,
southeast.
thanks.
Rise in opposition to moving the homeless shelter to the area on Riser Avenue and Brightwood Road. I'm in a particularly unique position. Back when the homeless shelter was started, I was asked by the original group to come in and speak to them because of my affiliation with the Tuscarawas County Real Estate Investors Association and the Ohio Real Estate Investors Association. I was a president of Tuscarawas REA and vice president of OREA. They asked me to come speak to them because of my unique experience with dealing with tenants and owners, things like that. They were looking for advice. My advice to them at that time was, no. You're barking up the wrong tree completely with the homeless shelter. I asked them when I went in, I said, how many homeless people are there in Tuscarawas County that you're dealing with? And they looked around the room at each other and they said, well, we have 6. We found 6. I said, so you want to open a homeless shelter for 6 people? They said, yes. I said, have you thought about this beyond the 6 people? Well, why should we consider it beyond the 6 people? I said, because within 5 years, you're going to have 5 times that number, 6 times that number. The costs are going to be so exorbitant, you won't be able to fund it anymore, and you're going to have to go looking for funding outside, all of which has happened. From what I'm understanding, just coming back into this, the homeless population now is 36 people, and you're looking to build something to house 60. Yeah, and I'm not sure if those are accurate numbers or not. Those are just numbers that I've heard. I also, in my duties with OREA and TUSCREA, had contact with several groups from surrounding counties, particularly one police officer in Stark County who enlightened me as to their position on the New Philadelphia homeless shelter. He said what they do is they find homeless people in Canton, and they don't want to deal with them, so they load them in an unmarked car. They bring them down to New Philly exit there on 77, throw them out of the car, make the U-turn, and head right back to Canton. He said, so you guys are getting all of our leftovers down there. He said, good luck. So that's why we're here and concerned, is because the people coming down from the northern counties, working their way through from Summit to Stark to Guernsey County, bring all of their problems with them. All of their drugs, all of their violence, all of their guns, all of their, you name it, they're bringing it. People in the room here from Brightwood, we're upset. We deal every day with the release people coming out of the city or the county jail. Every day, there's somebody walking up and down Brightwood Road who's just been released from the county jail, and they come right down through Brightwood. And now you want to throw another mess on top of that. We're not interested in that. And to add to that, we're heavily armed in Brightwood. Okay, I know you guys don't want to hear that, but it's true, and I know a lot of people, specifically older people in Brightwood, who don't answer their door without having a firearm in their hand. Because you never know what's going to pop up on your front door. You don't know who's coming out of the jail down the street, and now you guys want to add, understanding drug addicts and everything else on top of that. We're not happy with that, and you're going to hear about we're not happy with that. I understand that we don't vote in the city, and you don't really care what we think, because we don't vote in the city, but we know a lot of people who do. And everybody that votes on this, will make sure your name gets out there, and let them know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Again, does somebody have something new to add? Ma'am, you got something new to add?
I do.
If it's got the same rehash, I mean. No, it's our meeting. It's a public meeting, but we ask visitors' comments. It's our meeting, it's a city council meeting. But
I do have some new things that
Okay.
I feel that need to be brought to light. My name is Jennifer Townsend. I live at 3115 Brightwood Drive, Southeast. And I do have several concerns and reservations about the homeless shelter. The main one that we touched on last week was the safety of the crime, increased drug and human trafficking that it may bring being right off the exit. I don't feel like Friends of the Homeless have been very forthcoming with the information that the public and New Philly residents should know. According to the Friends of the Homeless, they have a grant with the Coalition on Homeless and Housing in Ohio, and their policies prohibit them from making a drug test a requirement to receive admittance to the emergency shelter. Background checks for recent violent criminal history, sex crimes, and arson are currently being done at the shelter through the Philadelphia Police Department. But Friends of the Homeless said they are discouraged from requiring background checks on new admissions, but said unless prohibited by the governing body of that grant, they would continue to do so. If disqualifying information is received, the person is exited the same day, but until the background check comes back, they are allowed to stay. The names of the location and the people denied access cannot be communicated to the New Philadelphia Police Department due to a HIPAA violation, according again to the grant requirements. Proof of residency and identity is also not required because the Friends of the Homeless state that lack of documents is not an accepted reason to decline services according to grant guidelines. When asked if they have been giving tents and camping supplies to those denied access, they responded, if we are in contact with an individual who is unsheltered and suffering conditions of exposure, we do provide them basic supplies if we have them available. Those denied access are also still allowed to come back and eat nightly suppers and meals. And according to best practice guidelines, in Ohio, according to the Coalition Homelessness and Housing in Ohio, homeless program projects the best practice is for homeless projects to fully adhere to housing first practices throughout the duration of assistance, including at program entry, after enrollment, and upon case closeout. Acceptance into a homeless program cannot be denied for the following: an individual or family has zero income, an individual or family refuses to accept services beyond the monthly case management requirement, the individual or family is not currently sober, the individual or family has a criminal history. So how long before best practice becomes mandatory and discouraged becomes prohibited? We don't want Brightwood and the Goshen Township areas of homes, woods, cornfields, lakes, and riverbanks off 416 to turn into another tent city. We would like New Philly to be able to set the rules and regulations for the shelter, but by accepting these federal grants, Uncle Sam and Washington, D.C. are dictating what goes on. New Philly has approximately 5,280 acres of land and is 8.25 square miles. So for example, let's say a farmer has 5,280 acres and decides to plant a very big, huge sycamore tree on the edge of his property line. And then the leaves fall and they blow onto the neighboring properties, and then a big storm comes and the tree falls down on the neighbor's yards, and he isn't there to help clean up the mess. The damage isn't on his property, so he neglects it. Imagine our frustration. We don't want to clean up this mess. The residents of Brightwood are not equipped to handle a homeless shelter, period, let alone one that wants to double in size. If the homeless shelter is built on any New Philly city property, then New Philly should be liable and obligated to handle all issues that arise with the shelter, at least within a mile radius in every direction. These here are the police logs
We've seen those, ma'am.
from 21, 22, and so far in 23. These are from the shelter itself, the residents of the shelter, and the homeless.
Where were you?
It's right across, and right now, it's right across the street from the police station. So double it in size, move it 3.5 miles out of town, and see what happens. Most New Philly residents have been against the shelter in their neighborhoods in town. At least inside city limits, New Philly residents get New Philly police protection and support and are able to take advantage of the no loitering ordinance that just passed. The sheriff office is busy and covers over 600 miles and sometimes has 20-minute response time. In my opinion, the housing first approach of the homeless shelter is just a Band-Aid for a bigger problem that exists here in Tuscarawas County. I feel that people need help first with mental health illness and drug addiction. The focus should shift to providing more inpatient intensive mental health and drug rehab treatment centers that is run by trained professionals, operated and ran by trained professionals. Cheryl Ramos stated last week in reference to the multiple family rentals, but I think it applies in this situation as well. She said, as a homeowner, your biggest single investment is your home, and you want to be safe there and have a nice neighborhood. Please make a responsible decision, New Philly. Brightwood has always been a good neighbor to you. Little goes on here, uneventful. We want to keep it that way. We had a guy hit a telephone pole once that took off running, and a black bear that roamed our neighborhood. We eat, play, shop, volunteer in your city. Please be respectful and keep Brightwood safe and quiet. Thank you for your consideration.
All right. Again, that's information we've already heard before. So I think we'll just move on to council comments. Any council member have comments tonight? Yes, Ms. Ramos.
I had a question. Are we allowed to do that, to offer public participation and we do limit it to 5 minutes, but are we allowed to say you can't talk anymore?
It's our meeting.
The city controls its own meeting. It's at the discretion of the president.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The city controls its own meeting, just like we don't have to allow somebody to come in here and do a dance in the middle of the thing and do a religious dance. We don't have to allow that either.
We
Just
get it.
because
I
it's
mean,
open to public comment.
we understand their compassion. I mean, some of it's a different group, but I mean, we've had how many meetings and we hear the same story basically each time about the homeless shelter, and so.
Maybe, sir, that
I'm
should
learning
show the
something new.
significance of the issue. If the
Well,
same
we
people are
agree with you,
homeless.
sir, but there's no action gonna be taken by council on this issue here, so, like I said, the Board of Zoning Appeals is gonna meet tomorrow night. That is the proper place to go, your concerns.
Isn't the council
It's not appropriate for him to
should remove
speak.
people?
He is not recognized. It is not appropriate for him to ask questions in the middle of a meeting. This is not his meeting.
Yep. So, we're gonna move on to our legislative agenda.
Resolution number 7, 2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a partnership agreement with the city of Uhrichsville, Ohio for the project year 2023 Community Housing Impact and Preservation CHIP program and declaring an emergency, first reading.
Is there any action to be taken by council on this legislation tonight? Hearing none, we held for our next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Resolution number 8, 2023, a resolution by the council of the city of New Philadelphia, Tuscarawas County, Ohio, authorizing and directing the mayor of the said city of New Philadelphia to act as the signature designee and to file an application for financial assistance under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, PL 93-383, to the Office of Community Development, Division of the Ohio Development Services Agency, Office of Local Government Services, and to accept the same upon award and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there any action taken by council on this legislation tonight? Hearing none, be held for our next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Resolution number 9, 2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Ohio Regional Development Corporation for administration services for the project year 2023 Community Housing Impact and Preservation CHIP program, and authorizing ORDC to submit the application to the project year 2023 CHIP on behalf of the City of New Philadelphia, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there any action taken by council on this legislation tonight? Hearing none, will be held for our next regularly scheduled council meeting.
And that concludes legislation for this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Corright. Any unfinished old business, council, tonight? Any new business brought before council tonight? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. 8:06, we are adjourned.